Is Lebanon on Team Palestine? Since October 7th, militant groups in Lebanon have fired thousands of rockets, anti-tank missiles, and drones into Israel, supposedly in solidarity with the Palestinians. Go Team Palestine, right? But for decades, Palestinians living in Lebanon have faced severe discrimination from their Lebanese neighbors and repressive laws from the Lebanese government. Boo Team Palestine? So what's the deal? Is Lebanon on or off the team? Lebanon is incredibly sectarian. The delicate balance of power there is unlike any other country. The president has to be a Maronite Christian. The prime minister has to be a Sunni Muslim. The speaker of the parliament has to be a Shia Muslim, and their deputies have to be Eastern Orthodox Christians. So when we talk about Lebanon, it's hard to say which team the country is on because, Lebanon itself is a fragile compromise between a bunch of different teams. It's kind of like if Kylie Jenner, Travis Scott, Megan Fox, and Machine Gun Kelly were all trying to run a country together. Though, less attractive and with real machine guns. So how do Palestinians living in Lebanon fit into all of this? In the years following the Arab world's first failed attempt to destroy Israel, over 100,000 Palestinian refugees entered Lebanon, which kinda messed with the whole careful balance of power thing. Then, Palestinian terrorist groups showed up in Lebanon after getting exiled from Jordan for doing annoying things like trying to overthrow the government. That took tensions in Lebanon from 10 to 11. Violence eventually boiled over into a brutal civil war that lasted 15 years. During that time, Israel sided with the Christian factions, eventually invading and occupying portions of southern Lebanon in collaboration with Christian Lebanese forces. Meanwhile, Iran sided with the Muslim factions and helped establish the Islamist terrorist group Hezbollah. Okay, for all you commenters out there who are going to be angry that I didn't mention Sabra and Shatila, there, I mentioned it. Now, go watch our sister channel's video about it. The link is in the description. Okay, so fast forward to today, and power in Lebanon is basically split between the Lebanese government and Hezbollah. The Lebanese government is still a messy coalition of combustible factions, and Hezbollah is an official political party that participates in the government as one of those factions. But Hezbollah also operates as its own state within a state. They run their own social services network and command their own military that's way more powerful than the Lebanese army. Think Proud Boys, but with artillery and 100,000 rockets. So yeah, when we talk about Lebanon, we might be talking about the Lebanese government, or we might be talking about Hezbollah. Either way, all of this complicated infighting has left the Palestinians in Lebanon pretty shafted. So question, how does Lebanon treat Palestinians? Answer, like crap. They're subjected to a system of discrimination that actually looks a lot like apartheid. I know, but listen, they're not allowed to own property. They're banned from many professions. They're excluded from most social benefits, even though they have to pay into the state social security system. And you can't really even call them second-class citizens because guess what? Even after 75 years there, they still don't have Lebanese citizenship. So some of this is likely due to the role Palestinians played in the Lebanese Civil War and the lingering hostility of Christian factions toward Muslims. Some of it is probably just classic anti-immigrant sentiments. We don't want Palestinian refugees to take our jobs and resources. And the truth is, right now, Lebanon is in the middle of an economic crisis. Nearly half of Lebanon lives in poverty, and basic services like electricity are often inaccessible or unavailable. But on the plus side, there's no shortage of rockets, apparently. And on top of all of that, a massive influx of Syrian refugees during the Syrian civil war really didn't help, straining Lebanon's already collapsing economy and raising concerns about the demographic balance in the country. So like lots of places around the world, anti-immigrant sentiment has been skyrocketing in Lebanon. And even though the vast majority of Palestinians in Lebanon were born there, they're still considered foreigners. So much for Team Palestine, right? Well, not so fast, because even though the Lebanese treat their own Palestinians pretty poorly, they're still huge supporters of the Palestinian cause. On October 8th, Hezbollah opened a supporting front for Gaza by launching attacks on Israel, and 78% of Lebanese people describe Israel's response to October 7th as a terrorist act. Just this month, Lebanon's acting prime minister spoke at a forum on Lebanon's role amid Israeli violations and global resolutions, where he strongly supported the Palestinian cause. But here's the thing. He really stressed the importance of the Palestinian right of return. The right of return is the idea that the descendants of Palestinian refugees from 1948 should go back to wherever their grandparents or great-grandparents lived back then, i.e., Israel, aka not Lebanon. Okay, so let's break that down. Palestinians are dying in Gaza, suffering a humanitarian crisis of epic proportions. And this guy is focusing on getting rid of Lebanon's Palestinians. I guess he supports the Palestinian right of return so fervently that he's willing to deny Palestinians in Lebanon citizenship or basic human rights, so that they don't get too comfortable and want to settle down. Wow, I'm sure that means a lot to nobody. Okay, but what about Hezbollah? Hezbollah likes to describe themselves as protecting the Palestinians.
That's kind of condescending.
It's part of their whole brand. And Hezbollah and Hamas are allies, both funded and armed by Iran. And you remember all those drones and rockets and anti-tank missiles that have been launched at Israel from Lebanon since October 7th? Most of those are being fired by Hezbollah. So Hezbollah is for sure on Team Palestine. But do they really support the Palestinian people? Or do they maybe have some of their own reasons to be on the team? I mean, we've already seen how the government that they are a part of treats Palestinians living in Lebanon, right? So let's look past the slick Hezbollah branding, outdone only by the Houthis, of course, and ask, is Hezbollah pro-Palestine or just anti-Israel? One of Hezbollah's founding documents casts Israel as an enemy of Islam and sets a goal to obliterate the Jewish state. Aw, thanks guys. But the document doesn't say anything about establishing a Palestinian state. No! It barely mentions the Palestinians, focusing mainly on Israel's actions in Lebanon and Israel's links to the West and Taylor Swift, of course. And Hezbollah has a long-standing border fight with Israel that has nothing to do with any Palestinian borders. Ever since Israel withdrew from Lebanon in 2000, Hezbollah has been fighting to take sections along the border they claim belong to Lebanon. Last year, in the months before October 7th, Hezbollah launched attacks along the border, even sending a terrorist deep into Israel to conduct a bombing attack. Again, all before October 7th. So the fact that Hezbollah has been launching attacks on Israel since October 7th may be partly out of solidarity with Palestinians, but it's also just business as usual in their existing fight with Israel, a fight that is not super popular in parts of Lebanon. The Hezbollah branding guys must have been grateful for October 7th. Hey, this isn't about dragging us into a devastating war over a few acres of land. It's about defending Palestinians and, getting rid of the ones next door who are taking our jobs. Now, whether Hezbollah is more pro-Palestinian or more anti-Israel, either way, you might have expected them to dive headfirst into full-on war against Israel after October 7th. But that's not what happened. Instead, Hezbollah seems to be trying to strike a sort of middle ground, launching small attacks on Israel, but not firing too deep into Israeli territory. Why do you think that is? Well, at the end of the day, Hezbollah's top loyalty is to Hezbollah, and it constantly has to fortify its position within the hot mess of Lebanon's internal politics. Hezbollah isn't just a terrorist group. They're a political party that relies on public support, and right now, the public just really isn't feeling another war with Israel. Lebanon is still traumatized by their last war with Israel, which the leader of Hezbollah has publicly admitted he regrets starting. And for the record, Israel also didn't fare too well in that war and isn't looking for a repeat either. Plus, Lebanon is in the middle of a crushing political and economic crisis. The Beirut port explosion in 2020 only made the situation worse, causing $15 billion in damage and leaving 300,000 people homeless in Lebanon's capital. The blame game around that disaster has only raised tensions among Lebanon's political factions, with a lot of people pointing fingers at Hezbollah. And on top of all of that, Lebanon is going through all this without a functioning government. Lebanon hasn't had a president for almost 2 years because appointing a president requires a consensus among the parliament, something extremely difficult to obtain in such a divided country. So the Lebanese people have enough on their plate without the threat of a war with Israel. A group in Lebanon is even running a nationwide campaign with billboards reading, "Lebanon doesn't want war." But according to a recent survey, half of Lebanese support a war with Israel, which is a lot. But among Christian Lebanese, that number drops to only 13%. Many Christian factions have accused Hezbollah of dragging Lebanon into another war it can't handle, just because Iran told them to. Basically, Lebanon has a lot going on within its own borders. So, all that said, what team do you think Lebanon is on? Let us know in the comments.